So today we're going to do a basic two-stage detail on my mother's 2007 GMC Envoy. As we can see, we have a lot of scratches, swirls, rock chips, acid etching, etc. While we can't do anything for the rock chips and only minimize the acid etching, we should have a beautiful surface when we're done here. So we start off with removing surface level contaminants. We're doing this with ONR, Optimum No Rinse, and Meguiar's clay bar. Once we've gone over the whole surface, we'll wipe off the excess product and begin moving on to our first step, compounding. Fortunately, the car wasn't excessively dirty, so we can start off with just the clay bar, but it never hurts to do an initial wipe down with our ONR and cloth to remove any excess debris or dirt from the surface before using the clay bar. On to stage 1, compounding. For this stage, we're using Meguiar's Ultimate Compound on Chemical Guys' orange Hex-Logic cutting pad. We start off by priming the pad. This is done by putting compound all over the pad and gently rubbing it into the pores of the pad to ensure there are no dry spots. Once the pad is primed, you only need to add 3 dime-sized dollops of compound to refresh the pad and move on to the next area. Ideally, when compounding, you should work a 2x2 area using slow, even pressure across the surface. You should move approximately 1 inch per 1 to 2 seconds with your initial working passes, as this ensures the pad is really working the area. As you progress into the compounding steps, you can begin to speed up just a bit. The main thing is you want to ensure the pad is always spinning. If it binds up or stops spinning, you're applying too much pressure and not working the surface. The great thing about Ultimate Compound is that it's a diminishing abrasive. That's great and all, but what is a diminishing abrasive anyway? It's an abrasive compound or polish that starts off as an aggressive compound that breaks down into finer and finer abrasives as you work the product, leaving less micro-marring and compounding swirls, making it to where it can be used as a one-step product if you wish. The downside to something like this is that it can sometimes break down before you finish working the area and have to do a second pass with fresh compound or polish. Personally, I love diminishing abrasives, especially for newer detailers or hobbyists, as they are far less likely to damage the paint and make it notably easier to get a good quality finish. With a diminishing abrasive compound or polish such as this, you could actually use this as your only product for compounding and polishing, using just different pads to obtain different finishes for your job. For example, after wet sanding, you can use it on a wool pad to remove the sanding marks, then move on to a heavy cutting pad to remove the marring from the wool pad, then move on to a polishing pad to remove any marring from the heavy cutting pad, and this can all be done with just one product and have a beautiful finish that you top off with your product of choice for sealants, waxes, ceramic coatings, or paint protection film. Now you might be wondering, if this is so great, why hasn't it taken over the detailing industry? And that's a discussion that really is far too in-depth for a video like this, but it ultimately comes down to what people prefer to use, how they prefer to work, and product compatibility for different finishes. Sometimes a product that you prefer to use just doesn't work well with certain paints or finishes, and you have to try something else. But I've been doing detailing as a hobbyist with some professional details for people over the years for about 12 years, and Ultimate Compound has always been a staple in my cabinet of products. Now that we finished compounding the whole hood with our ultimate compound, we're moving on to the second stage of detailing, which will be our polishing using Meguiar's ultimate polish. We'll be using it on a Hex-Logic polishing pad by Chemical Guys, and prime the pad just as we did before, making sure to work the product into all the pores of the pad, and then using only 3 dime-sized dollops for each subsequent pass. Ultimate Polish is also a diminishing abrasive, just like its more well-known sibling, so we can rest assured that it's going to break down to a beautiful finish for the finishing steps before our protection of choice. Comically, I actually didn't even know this product existed up until a couple of weeks ago. It works very well, very similar to Meguiar's professional polish M205, and has a very long working time. It does have some oils in it, which will help with adding a bit of gloss to the finish, especially on darker or metallic finishes, but this also means that if you're going to be putting on a protectant that can't go over oils, such as ceramic coatings or paint protection film, you will have to wipe down the surface with a degreaser or IPA, isopropyl alcohol, to remove those oils. This is also a common thing to do anyway to ensure you have the surface fully corrected and not just filling the swirls or marks with a product that will just be washed away with the next rain or wash. I know I've used ceramic coating a lot on this channel, and it's something I do love, but there was absolutely no chance I could successfully use it during the detail for the night, as it was just way too humid, it wouldn't have set right. So instead I used a product that I've been interested in trying out for a while, Meguiar's ceramic wax. First off, this stuff smells absolutely amazing. Most of their products do actually. Second, I'm not applying it per the directions at all. It says to apply it to a wet surface and buff it off, or just spray it onto a wet surface and hose it off. In my research, this heavily kills its durability, and applying it dry and then buffing it off tends to be far more durable. So, that's what I did. It does continue to haze for a bit, so I had to come back after a few minutes and buff it off again, but overall, I'm happy with how it looks. You'll also notice that as we move into the aftershot in a moment, that there are still a ton of rock chips, acid etching, some crazing, and a bunch of tiny pits. Those tiny pits are just from normal wear for a vehicle, and it's essentially sandblasting from going down the road. Nothing that can be done against it now, but it's a wonderful view of why paint protection films are so popular. And that's it. You can see the finish is exponentially better now compared to the beginning. This was also done after my 4-way product comparison video, so there was no way I could leave 4 giant squares in my mother's hood, as she would likely kill me. You'll notice that you can't see where I'd masked anything off from the prior video, as well as no real difference across any areas, which tells us that we've done a wonderful job of ensuring the whole area has been corrected uniformly. Thanks so much for tuning in, and as always, if you enjoyed the content I'm putting out, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to receive updates for new content as it comes out. Thanks for watching. Take care.